Gibraltar is both universal and local, both macroscopic and microscopic. Gibraltarians shared the global experience of the coronavirus outbreak, yet the rock's unique culture and geography shaped their distinct path through the pandemic. Gibraltar became one of the first countries on the planet to fully vaccinate its adult population. As masks are discarded, restrictions lifted, and sporting events resume, Gibraltar has become a test bed for the return to normal. History is still unfolding, but 1 year on, Gibraltarians are telling their stories of life in the bubble. Gibraltar has always been strategically important, always culturally distinct. This gigantic, rugged promontory rises up out of the Mediterranean. Formed of Jurassic limestone, it is ancient, timeless. Gibraltar's waters could tell stories of invasions and piracy that go back centuries. Guarding the eastern mouth of the Straits of Gibraltar, where Africa and Europe meet, the rock is highly prized territory. It has been coveted by ancient peoples and modern nations alike. Today, it is a British overseas territory. Just a thin sliver of land connects Gibraltar to the Spanish mainland. The surrounding seas are vital for trade, for shipping, for tourism. The straits are also witness to smuggling and criminality. Named Jabal Tariq in Arabic, Gibraltar faces Jebel Musa, a towering, bulky mountain across the water in Morocco. Together, they are the ancient pillars of Hercules. Here, a distinctive maritime culture thrives around a vibrant island-like community. These are the things that have shaped Gibraltar's experience of and response to the coronavirus pandemic.
I think it was either very late January or beginning of February. So we'd already, I think it was the end of January where we first got our first instruction from the Collector of Customs. I was walking down the pontoon and I was with a female officer that's in our crew, and as I was approaching, I was saying, we're going to go on board and search that vessel. So I just got a feeling about it, and straight away the agent came, no, you can't go on it, you can't go on it, you need gloves. To be honest, I thought he was joking. I thought they were taking the mick out of us. And then it's like, no, it was one of the passengers, one of the crew members has jumped on the boat, and he might be. So that crew member was actually isolated in a room, but they didn't want no one on it, no one off it. It's like, for me, it was that moment in time that I thought, this is real, this is getting to Gibraltar, and it's like, so yeah, for me it was probably that moment, yeah, definitely.
I think for me, on the outside was seeing the news of Italy, especially seeing the hospitals being overrun. That was quite shocking and quite impacting, yeah. I think, in all our lives.
The first case of coronavirus in Italy was confirmed at the end of January 2020. By mid-February, community transmission was fueling outbreaks in Lombardy. Small towns were placed in quarantine. Police and military patrolled the streets. Soon, all of Italy was locked down. It looked like a horror movie. Silent cities, trucks transporting the dead at night. Italians posted on YouTube and social media, warning us to get ready and be prepared. Everything was about to change.
Italian people are very scared and anxious. A lot of people are worried. They might not see their families for a while, and I think Just as I said, it was the first time that a situation like this happens in the history. People are confused, are disoriented. They are dealing with the virus, but furthermore, they don't know what to expect. And doctors are asking to breathe. So please stay at home and follow the rules. I know it's scary, but please follow the rules. This is the only way to prevent containing the virus. Doctors are under pressure. They are scared, perhaps more than patients. They don't have enough information about the virus, are discovering several symptoms every day. A lot of them have been practically living in the hospital without ever seeing their families. And they start working in the morning and they finish their shift after 24 hours. We don't know why Italy was so badly affected, but Italy is just the first country, and I want to say to the other countries just one thing: be prepared, get ready, because when it arrives, it's like an explosion.
The richest region of Italy, with the best hospitals in Italy, some of the best hospitals in Europe, couldn't cope. And you start to see that the politics of a public health system that cannot cope is starting to affect the reality, the human reality of people who are losing their lives because of this. And I suppose in the very 21st century way, you know things are serious when you start a WhatsApp group and you bring everyone in so that you can communicate instantly. And on the 2nd of March, I started a WhatsApp group, COVID-19. Every single morning, the updates on what was happening, the first case in Gibraltar, following that through, terms that we now think are normal. Contact tracing bureau, what's that? We never had an FBI in Gibraltar, what's that? Test, trace, isolate, all of those things were to come. And the beginning of it was the realization that we had to have a way to communicate quickly amongst ourselves, so that it wasn't even fast enough by email, it had to be by WhatsApp. We needed to know immediately what was going on. That's when you know that you've got something you're dealing with which is serious, which is about to hit, and you're preparing yourself with your battalions, so to speak, to face it. But it's invisible. This is not an enemy that you're going to see coming towards you. And I think that was the most horrific part of what we were dealing with, that we were told there's a 0 case in Gibraltar now, and we knew it was here, but we didn't know how far it had gone. We didn't know where it was going.
Nobody really knew what we were preparing for. How serious was this? Will we run out of food? There were rumours and confusion. There were denials and distrust.
I remember the first day when they said Morrison's was closing. There was rumours Morrison's is closing. And everybody it was crazy, and it was very, very scary. That day was really, really scary because everybody was just piling, and you could see there wasn't any pasta, there wasn't any milk.
Well, not everything, but at least we understand, no? The situation, not everything is available, but I think we've managed to get the few things we wanted.
I think the government is denying loads of stuff from us. They're not telling us the whole truth. And as you can see, everyone's seen it on the news. China was the first place infected, and they're the ones with less casualties right now. Why? Because they went into lockdown and everything was controlled. Down here, we're still working. What do you have to wait for? Somebody to die or something really major to happen for them to take action?
Tuesday, observe the rules that we have made to protect you. Be out as little as you have to. Get home as quick as you can. An invisible killer lurks amongst us, and you can do your bit to slow its passage through our city by observing these rules. I could never imagine that I would be announcing a lockdown to restrict the ability of individuals to be able to move freely about our geography. A lockdown, a permanent curfew. Don't go to work.
Travel and social restrictions started to tighten in and around Gibraltar. Events were cancelled, bars, restaurants and offices closed. Morocco suspended ferry links and Spain completely locked down. Then, on the 24th of March, Gibraltarians were ordered to stay home too.
But when it hit home for me in Gibraltar, quite weirdly, was actually when I do a lot of walking. So I was out walking one day and I noticed someone coming towards me, and I thought, we're going to cross like we normally would do. This person actually went out into the road and sort of did a half circle around me to move past, and I went, oh my God, this is real, and that's what impacted on me. I looked back and thought, she went back on the pavement and carried on walking. Oh my God! Is it me? I got it. It makes me, and since then it's happened quite a lot. Yeah. Quite a lot of people are you're going that way, I want to go this way, all that type of thing. So for me, that was impacting for me, because I thought, this has never happened before. Sitting on a place and seeing somebody come in and go fast, you can go to another place and all that sort of thing. And that's what's impacted on me more than anything, and it's changed our lives. And you think about it, if this doesn't change, there's babies of today that will not know any different to what it is now.
Throughout history, artists have responded to momentous events. Like everyone else, Gibraltar's artists had to adapt to life in lockdown. Some have been prolific producers. Others will first observe and process before making pandemic artwork. Each has their own story.
I was living in Santa Margarita in La Línea at the time when the confinement last year in March was set, and I think it was starting on a Sunday sometime in March, and on the Saturday I had to come back to Gibraltar, and I didn't have anywhere to stay, so I had to go in with my kids, my wife, all to my brother's house, and then that was when it hits you. It was like, I've got nowhere to live right now. I'm in my brother's house. I've had to move over because of, not being able to cross the frontier at some point tomorrow.
I knew I could come in today to collect my work things, and then I'm working from home.
I'm very surprised at how smooth it was and is, and how calm everybody is. There's absolutely nobody in the streets in La Línea. I can't hear very much traffic, I can't see very much queue. Everything is very gentle. See what it's like this afternoon, because I read online this morning that the Andalusian, the head of the Andalusian government is pressing for closing down the border with France and Andorra and Portugal and here. So we'll just have to wait and see what the day brings us.
This side I didn't think there was going to be a problem anyway, but going back I think I'm probably going to have a problem. I live in Spain but I work here, so I'm going into work to get my equipment to work from home. So the question mark is the other side, but who knows?
Nada, hecho. It's the same as I was expecting, because there is a paranoia state all around the world.
I thought it was much more quiet now, so I thought it would be worse, because I've been told by my employer that I need a permit to cross the border, but it was all right.
Every day, Thousands of pedestrians and vehicles cross the border between Gibraltar and La Linea in Spain. Mostly, cross-border movement is smooth. Sometimes there are queues and delays. However, the frontier is always open, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Then, in March 2020, Spain closed its external borders. Only Spanish citizens, residents, or cross-border workers could enter. Non-essential travel was prohibited. The impact on Gibraltar was immediate. Nobody knew how long the restrictions would last, and memories of the past were stirred.
In June 1969, the Spanish government struck its hardest blow against Gibraltar. Overnight, General Franco ordered the withdrawal of the Spanish labor force from the Rock and closed the land frontier. This was perhaps the most dramatic decision taken by Madrid in its campaign against Gibraltar since 1964. The drama carried on all day. The workers, carrying their few belongings and their tools, trooped across the frontier into Spain for the last time, and the gates closed at 11:30.
And so it's important both to protect the workers who are coming into Gibraltar so that they can stay in their homes in Spain in keeping with the Spanish decree, and to stop the spread of the virus in Gibraltar by importing it from Spain and having it congregate in workplaces where social distancing cannot be practiced, that we should take this decision. But there's no question whatsoever of my conversation with Senor Fernando Alaska having been anything other than entirely positive and cordial, and it was an opportunity to talk about how we might help people who find themselves in a difficult situation, but it was primarily about keeping the frontier flowing, and the way that Spain was ensuring and wanting to give us assurances that the frontier would continue to flow. So really quite the opposite. I wouldn't want anybody to think that the government of Gibraltar is acting as a result of an imposition or a condition which was not even mentioned in the phone call.
Well, I managed to get someone to lend me a flat eventually, and you just get on with life, the routine. But I'm a teacher, and it stopped. The actual schools just shut down. Everything. I was in home most of the time, and everything sort of became smaller and more confined. Life in general, all these restrictions that were being put, and you could go out for a jog or for a walk with your kids.
If you're out, walk on your own. Parents, walk only with children. Do not congregate with others. As from Tuesday morning, I am very sorry to say that the Royal Gibraltar Police will have power to enforce these regulations. We realize the heavy burden that will impose on our officers. Please help them by not knowingly contradicting rules that we are putting in place to protect you and your loved ones. Please follow the instructions of a police officer who is acting pursuant to these regulations. This is about enhancing social distancing. There will be power to enforce these regulations by a police officer for this purpose.
And I think you would actually, I think it helped in a way to value more what you have. Those little moments that are quite special, sharing it with your family. So COVID has given me time to think, time to develop ideas, time to actually be able to come into a space like this and develop projects which in the past I haven't been able to. In a way, I think that most artists are almost always in confinement in their own way. You need to have the time and the space to be creative. So it's really helped, I think.
Because of the pandemic and all that, obviously the virus came into mind, and I started making little viruses, which were basically like pinch pots, yeah? And at that moment in time, the first lockdown, it was basically about producing viruses, producing viruses. I had some sort of idea of what I was going to do, but not the complete idea. But it's a process. This project was like a process, and to keep my mind, that's sane.
But it was still really weird to think that, oh my God, actually just spent the last year in a pandemic and my brain's been telling me that I'm just hanging out in my house all day, doing nothing, and that's fine. So I think probably didn't really hit me until a lot later in. But the beginning, it was a light settlement that there was a bit of a pandemic going on. So at first, I didn't really do much. I didn't do anything creative. I don't think I took any photos, any videos, anything. And I kind of played The Sims and poured my heart and soul into interior design of something on a computer or the Xbox. And then after maybe 4 or 5 months of doing nothing, I decided that I had to just stand up and get back into my normal process and go for walks and carry on taking walks, photo walks with my partner. And then it's difficult to say positive because I feel so guilty saying positive, but it was positive in the sense that I've found a lot more confidence in myself, in my art, in my way of being. I've learnt how to not really keep quiet, but to choose where I speak and where I concentrate my personal energy, and it's been really positive. Obviously, I know it's not a positive situation for everyone, and I'm really grateful and lucky that I live the life that I actually have, but yeah, it definitely was positive to a certain extent, as difficult as it is to say.
Now, Gibraltar is under the microscope, a test bed for the impact of community vaccination. The outcome is unknown, but there is talk of a return to normal, of hope. Gibraltarian stories of life in the bubble are part of a worldwide narrative, and that is a story that is still being written.